My girlfriend and I are really into music, but I feel like she never critiques my work honestly and always tells me it's great, so I let her listen to one of the songs I wrote without telling her I wrote it, and she called it total trash. I was finally happy that I got her to be honest with me, but she's furious that I lied to her and says she can't trust me again. Posted by you/musicthrow. So let me start off by saying that I know this was slightly manipulative. I deceived her by omission, and it speaks volumes about my communication skills. I understand that, and I actually feel really guilty about it. But here's what happened. My 28M girlfriend, 28F, is very critical about music. I make music on my own, but I never felt like she ever gave me real criticism of my music, despite me pleading with her to give me something blunt and real. She always said it was great and never had anything to say about it. But when she would critique other music, she would get extremely detailed with it, critiquing music down to the very last detail. I really admire her thoughts on music, and all I really wanted was for her to do that for my music as well. But she would always just say it was great without saying much else, and I never believed her due to the stark differences in how she would frame these opinions. So one day, I had her listen to some music without telling her it was mine. I just said, "Hey, check out this track," without saying it was mine. She went in. She said it was the work of someone who had no idea what they were doing. The composition was all over the place, and it didn't flow together. Sections of the song were much too long, there was a rise without a climax, and she said it was all around just a boring song. When I told her it was my song, she got really, extremely upset. She said I was a jerk for lying to her, I manipulated her, and that she can never trust me again. She took a bunch of things and stayed at her parents' house last night. I feel terrible, but at the same time, I also feel a bit vindicated. Also, I feel like she's overreacting. I don't really know where to go from here, because I don't want to lie to her about how I feel about what I did, feel sort of bad, but then again, not really. Did I do the right thing? Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Regardless of the specifics, she very clearly told you, I don't want to do this thing, and you tricked her into doing the thing she clearly told you she didn't want to do. If you want to get it all mixed up in feelings around music criticism, that's your business, but the plain facts are as above. And people are allowed to feel that it's not cool to A, not have their own decisions about what they don't want to do, be respected, and B, be tricked by someone they trusted. If the vindication about her opinion is worth doing A and B to her, then I guess it was worth it, and you'll just need to live with the fallout from it. Ops response. She didn't tell me she didn't want to critique my music. While I agree with most people here that I did something manipulative, and I feel horrible about it, I think it highlights a bigger issue of communication in this relationship. I value blunt honesty, and she knows this about me, yet continued to placate me and tell me it's great with no real comment. I felt that was condescending. I totally regret not grilling her on this kind of thing, but I didn't think it was fair for me to force her to tell me something she obviously didn't want to tell me, but I also don't think it's fair that she kept lying to me, telling me that my music is great when I have to manipulate her into admitting she was lying the whole time. This was a breakdown in communication in a huge way, and while neither of us are saints, I don't believe I was the only bad guy in this situation. Commenter 2. 1. I hope you don't feel bad. She's your girlfriend, not someone who's expected to love everything you create. You do appreciate her criticism and she gave it to you. You should be glad if you respect her opinion. Apologize for manipulating her and thank her for her honest feedback. Let her know that her opinion of your song does not hurt your feelings, and then in the future, you don't have to play games like that to get her opinion. Good luck. Ops response. I really do appreciate the actual opinion she gave me, but I lost respect for her as a person, just because I frankly feel infantilized by her desire to lie to me in order to protect my feelings when I was bluntly trying to tell her that I really want her real, blunt opinions on my music. Commenter 3. Good people don't enjoy insulting or hurting their partners. It's not fun. It's painful. If your significant other is anything like me, then critiquing the creative work of someone you love is bad as the same as insulting that person. It's taking something she knows you worked hard on and telling you your effort was worthless. That is not an enjoyable experience. It's painful, and it's extremely unkind of you to put her in that position. She wants to keep your relationship positive. You've ruined that, and it will be very hard for her to forgive you for that. Update 3 days later. Hi everyone. I didn't get a whole lot of well-wishing words from me on my last post. Most people felt that I was manipulative, took away her agency of choice by deceiving her, and that I deserved to have my relationship fall apart. Well, you guys were right. You win. She hadn't officially broken up with me, but I could tell the relationship had been in its final stages. Long story short, the day after I wrote my post, i.e., the day I responded to most of the comments, a few hours later, I called her, told her to stay at her mom's place, that we were fundamentally incompatible, and that this obviously wasn't going to work out. I wanted to provide some background to our relationship, to clarify what I believe to be a few misunderstandings in the responses to my previous post. I had been asking her for a long time to provide me with honest critique of my music. I've approached her before about why her answers are so vague and placating when it comes to my music. I told her I could obviously see the contrast between that and how she critiques all music, whether she likes it or not. She outright denied that she was just placating me, and said there was nothing to worry about, and all my music was great, and that I was being crazy about it. The last time her and I talked about this, I was not subtle in my communication. I directly told her that I would value her critiques and take them to heart, whether the critique was positive or negative. I just really wanted her opinion, particularly considering that she's been a primary inspiration for some of my best work. I had made it clear that I really just didn't want to be placated, because music is so important to me, and the same goes for her, and I'm not in it to get people to suck me off and tell me how great I am. I want to be the best possible musician I can be. And I also feel incredibly disrespected by being placated, like I'm some child who can't take criticism. I've never given anyone, let alone her, reason to believe that I would need placation. Beyond this, she still denied it all, but I could tell it was pretty much BS, and it was driving me crazy. So months and months later, I've gotten nowhere with communicating with her, and I still have the nagging suspicion, to the point where I'm not even asking her opinion anymore, because it just makes me mad. A few days ago, it just popped into my mind like it was no big deal to play her one of my Pretty May in my opinion, but still had pretty okay responses from the general public songs. Basically, just a throwaway instrumental I did when I was bored and kinda dug at the time. And I didn't tell her it was me. We finished listening, and I asked her what she thought of that tune. She goes off on it, basically hating it. See, my previous post. I said, okay, thanks so much. I'm so glad I could finally get it out of you. I agree with a lot of what you said. She goes, wait, that's your song? I said, yeah, it's an old one. And she gets mad and says, what the F, up? And we get into an argument about it. She thinks I went out of my way to manipulate her, like it was sociopathic and premeditated. I'm telling her, it's not even that big of a deal. Why were you lying to me in the first place? And she said, because I just don't like your music. Are you happy? And we continue to fight. It escalated to the point where we started swearing, so she said, you know what? I don't need this, and walked out. She's been there ever since. Fast forward to the breakup conversation. She said she felt guilty about not liking my music for 2 reasons. 1, because she thinks it was effed up that she simply didn't like her significant other's art, and she was ashamed of that. The other reason is that, a lot of the time, she feels like she doesn't know what she's talking about, and didn't want to rip my music apart like she does with most songs, because she could totally be wrong, and then she'd be a jerk. I was really upset by this. I feel like I called her out on her lying months ago, and she kept lying to me instead of just saying that. I tried so hard to tell her months ago that it's okay if she doesn't like it, but she just clammed up, thinking I was going to fly off the handle and end our relationship over it. After months and months of telling her that I didn't want to be placated, she kept trying to placate me and wouldn't communicate the real reasons. How am I supposed to expect her to be an adult and communicate what she really feels, instead of lying to avert imagined conflict, when we have relationship issues in the future? Music is such a huge and important piece of our lives together, and this situation probably wouldn't have gotten to where it is if it weren't. It may seem silly to those of you on the outside that what appears to be just a stupid, petty argument led to the complete breakdown of a relationship. And now I'm just left confused and lonely. She was also my best friend in the entire world, and there's a void inside of me, and a voice telling me I'm making a huge mistake. And I'm confused and pulled in multiple directions. Thanks for taking the time to read this. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. She communicated with you the first time, in a way to stop you from asking her about it again, and instead of taking her at her word, you then passive-aggressively manipulated her into yet another conversation about it. She shouldn't have to provide you with her entire thought process in order for you to believe that she means what she says the first time. The breakdown in communication has to do with you not respecting her comments the first time. It literally doesn't matter what her opinions on your music are or how that relates to you. She made it clear that she didn't really want to talk about it, and instead of taking that at face value, you manipulated her into giving a different response because of what you wanted. Look, dude. There are plenty of ways to get critique and validation for your music. Why did you feel that manipulating someone you love into doing it when they clearly didn't want to was one of those ways? This is not what listening to music is about, and it's not a good communication tactic in a relationship either. She placated you to avoid conflict for both of you, but you manipulated her for your own validation. To me, that sounds selfish. Op's response. She didn't communicate anything with me. She made me feel crazy for seeing past the everything is great facade when it wasn't. She actively hid her feelings from me when I made it expressly clear how much I don't appreciate being placated, because it shows a lack of respect and trust for me, and it's condescending. One last comment from Op. That's your unfortunate perspective. Her dishonesty came from a place of keeping the peace. That doesn't make it okay, especially if I've never given a reason to think I would disrupt the peace, and was very clear about that. Your dishonesty came from a place of self-serving vindication. I think it's more simple than that. It came from a place of uncovering a lie. Do you guys pile on like this when someone snoops through a phone to find out their partner's cheating? Do those people get hundreds of comments calling them names like a couple have done to me here, and making character assaults over it? Or do they tell them to take screenshots and keep them for later? Op's girlfriend did not have any domain expertise. Yes, she does. She's a professional in our local music community. You could have just broken up with her. I did. I knew she was repeatedly lying to my face for months, and I uncovered it and broke up with her. And I'm getting zero sympathy here for it, for reasons that simply aren't making too much sense. Lying is perfectly okay when she does it because she was uncomfortable, conflict averse, or whatever, but when I do something to uncover a lie, something everyone here can agree is not cool to do in a relationship, I'm manipulative, deceitful, stupid, an idiot, etc. Nobody here is catching on to the double standard except for the 2 to 3 people who messaged me in support, afraid to get piled on by the karma train.